Hey, folks, welcome to the show.
My name's Gary,
I'm CJ,
and this is my brother's joint.
returning guest Ed again. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, I can't complain.
Good to see you again, Ed.
Good to see you guys.
How was that snowstorm you had?
I think it was only called a snowstorm because it was the only real amount of snow we got this year. But I mean, it was just basically overnight. We managed to accumulate a little over a foot. It was nothing serious.
Yeah, you guys have been doing good with that, man. It's impressive.
It's probably the third time I actually had to clear the driveway all year.
Yeah. Well, you're going
It's
a little
like
bit grainy
unheard
again
of.
there, buddy.
That's like unheard of.
Yeah, it is. It's
Newfoundland.
crazy for
especially the
Newfoundland,
West
man.
Coast. I mean, like St. John's.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you can see it, but West Coast Newfoundland, no, you should be
Usually buried. I mean, it's the end of February, right?
Yeah,
So
Well, the West
This
Coast
is
is
when
no
you should
different
be
than
at your
St. John's out by the water. But where Deer Lake is more inland, usually they're
yeah,
much
you
more
usually
buried.
get a ton of snow, right? Yeah. So I guess I sent. Do you see what I sent to the group chat about Russia having a confirmed case of H5N8 from from a poultry factory? It's its first case of the H5N8 bird flu virus jump from poultry to human. It's the first
Yeah.
case.
So basically, we're going to go from the China flu to the Russian flu.
Apparently.
so it seems.
The only good thing about Russia is they'll probably kill anybody who has it. So
There
it
won't be a
probably
question,
won't
yeah.
get out of the country.
I'm just
No,
wondering, where is it going?
They've. I actually looked into that link that you sent, and there's been cases in China and the Middle East, Northern Africa.
It spread has
In
it?
the animals. No, that's only in the animals.
Yes,
not-
in the
yes,
animals,
in the
right? Yeah.
animals, yeah.
But there's only one confirmed human case, and that's in
Yeah.
Russia
Yeah.
from that poultry factory.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, man. Can you imagine if
All
we
it
have
needs is
another
another
one on top of the one we already have? I guess it doesn't. I mean,
It'll be
it
a lot
depends.
harder
If
for this one
it's
to
not
travel.
deadly, then it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
it'll
good
be a
thing,
lot
right?
harder for this one to travel too, because travel is so limited right now as we are anyway.
Right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it probably
That's-
won't get as far.
Yeah, that's the real benefit is where we're still in the middle of cracking down on a pandemic. If this flares up a little bit, it's probably just going to stay in one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But all I'm just wondering now,
'Cause,
okay, so we had China, Russia. Where's next? North Korea?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Ed, you're gone all grainy again, buddy. And the timing's off on your video.
On my end,
That's it.
you're the same way.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's fine.
But
It's
Gary's crystal clear, so I don't know.
It's okay because it's grabbing a local from your computer anyway. So we don't
Yeah,
worry about
well-
it. This is just internet thing, then. No big deal.
Mine
Don't worry,
looks
folks. We're just
lousy
trying out
over
some
here,
new,
too, so.
some new equipment, and some new software.
Yeah, yeah. To
Bear
make,
along with us. The audio's still going to match up, so it's
Yeah.
all good.
It's just going to make our editing lives easier.
If it works.
We don't have to go through 4,000 different programs in order to get everything to line up.
Yeah.
It can
We'll
be a
know
little
after we're
tedious
done.
sometimes.
Yeah, we're growing. We're figuring it out.
That's right.
It's not bad. So
You guys just get to experience it with us. That's all. So thanks
Yeah,
for coming
you have
along
to-
for the ride.
yeah, you have to put up with it with us. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, brother, you were mentioning earlier about that new Yukon.
Yeah. Definitely
The-
want.
What is it? The AT4?
AT4.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched a couple of review videos on it today. Man,
That thing is giant.
Is
I
wicked.
haven't seen the Yukon. I've seen the Sierra AT4. That thing is
Seats 8
quite
people?
nice.
It can.
Yukon.
Yeah, if you flip up
What's
the
the
third seat.
AT4 stand for?
That's the off-road package, the all-terrain.
Oh, okay. So
Kinda
it's like
deal.
there used to be a Z71.
Yeah. Kind of
Basically.
thing.
In the Chevs, yeah.
This
AMC hasn't
is
used Z71 in years.
yeah. The
Yeah,
AT4 moniker is basically a luxury off-roader.
Right.
That's what they're kind of branding the AT4 package as.
Yeah,
Luxury
which makes
off-roader.
sense. If you've seen the interior of the Sierra, I don't know
some
if the
nice.
Yukon is the same, but it's got like all black leather with these like orange inserts and stuff. Man,
Oh yeah, there's
man.
some nice.
Did you see on the Sierra too? You know that normal dead little triangular space behind the rear seats. that's just empty space. Well, at
Yeah.
least with these, they actually have on the driver and passenger side, the center of the seats where the right and left passenger would sit. There's a little door that opens up to access the area behind the seats,
Oh, that's kind of cool.
so you can actually use that for storage finally. Because I remember back in the day, old trucks, the rear seats used to be able to fold forward. But ever since they started
Right.
folding up off the floor to give you more room back there, the way the back is, you can't fold them down anymore. So it's just nice that they added those little doors so that dead space can be utilized again.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that's what I like about my truck is it has where the transmission is mounted differently in the Fords. They don't have a hump for the
Big
tunnel,
hump, yeah.
or they don't have the tunnel for the transmission and the drive shaft. So my back is flat when you fold the seats up, which is super convenient because you don't have that hump right in the middle.
Yeah,
It's more comfortable for passengers too, right? Because you don't have to your feet don't have to be split over into the other person's area.
Well,
When you sit,
most of the
bitch.
trucks are like that now, just because the cabs have gotten longer. So when you get a full four-door cab,
You can stretch it out.
the transmission is so far forward that by the
Yeah.
time you get to the rear legroom area,
The
it's
drive
just
shaft
drive
is
shaft.
dropped.
Yeah, it's just drive shaft, so they can have a nice flat floor back there.
It's good though.
What I really
Oh, yeah.
like about it the most is all the off-road management. Holy shit.
It's crazy.
Well, obviously you've got your 2 high, 4 low.
Right.
It's GM, so it's got the auto 4x4 feature as well.
Terrible.
But then it's also got 5 different drive modes, like normal, sport, off-road, tow haul, blah, blah, blah.
Right, right.
But then there's a button, and no matter what mode you're in, you just push this button, and then you turn the dial left or right, and you just adjust your ride height to whatever you want.
That is convenient.
That's sick as hell.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's got limited slips all the way around. It's got terrain sensing shocks, which adjusts the rebound and whatnot.
Stiffness, yeah.
Yeah, so it's constantly adjusting with valving.
They must be pulling that from sports car technology because a lot
absolutely.
of Ferraris and Aston
Yeah, yeah.
Martins have the reactive shock
They're
the
technically
fluid stiffens depending on road conditions and the reaction time.
Yeah,
of the shock.
like most of the stuff that'll be on a Chev is just going to be
And
electronic valving.
you might
and
be able to
stuff.
explain that better. How the fluid inside changes viscosity
molecular
almost. You know what
structure.
I mean?
well, that's been around since the 1990s, but
Yeah, but it's only just kind
it's
of
only been in racing
big now.
vehicles mostly. But the newer Corvettes also have that. It's basically you picture like a really thick oil with a suspension of metallic particles.
yeah, which
And it's mixed in so thickly that as soon as you put a magnetic field to this fluid actually gets super thick and almost goes solid because of all the
Changes its
all the metal flake, I guess
viscosity.
you could say, that's in it.
Yep.
Because all the metals that's suspended in it, it just thickens right up and almost goes hard. So you can change, and of course, depending on the strength of the magnetic field, you can make it thicker or thinner. So you can actively change your dampening on the fly. But as for the rest of the,
it's amazing what we can do right now.
as for the rest of the things you
Crazy.
listed about adjustable ride heights and all that stuff, I mean that's basically 15 years
That's
old now.
airbags. Yeah, I know. That's easy, but
No, I'm just saying
It's
because
just
other
really
SUVs,
nice
like
to-
other higher end SUVs, like I mean, the higher end
Escalades
Land
and
Rovers
stuff, yeah.
Discoveries and stuff like that, always had that stuff, and even the older Jeep Grand Cherokees and stuff have had that now for several years. So it's just nice to see Chev finally getting that stuff.
yeah.
they're starting to pick up their game, right?
Oh yeah.
I remember
got
when they
to.
had the ugliest interiors of anybody ever. They could never do a good interior, and they're finally
They were
starting to
super
come around now.
plain, absolute junk for materials. Like the plastics were so.
I think the
Junk.
first domestic company to start doing a real nice interior was probably Dodge,
Yeah.
Chrysler.
Yeah, do you know
Their
why,
interiors are nice.
They were the first ones in the Rams to do that double stitch leather dashboards and all that stuff. Is well done. right?
What year are you talking about? Do you remember?
What year was that Ram that I had? 2012, right?
No, your truck's a 13.
No, my Ram that I had,
Yeah, I know, but what year did you buy your Ford?
2013.
Right, so you bought that. That Ram is either an 11 or a 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one to two, yeah. Because I only had it for 9 months,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well,
Yeah,
see, the
you
thing about
didn't even get it
Chrysler
to your
though
year, yeah.
is used to be owned by Mercedes,
Yeah.
and they started
They
to
were
get real
Daimler
good with
Chrysler.
they started to get real good with their interiors there in the early 2000s. And then when Mercedes backed away and they became independent, they only managed to stay independent for a few years, and then Fiat bought them out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're going to have nice interiors when they're owned by the same company that owns Ferrari, right?
That's fair, yeah.
I just want an Alpha.
Oh,
Alfa Romeos are so nice, man. They're probably
They're so
the
pretty.
most beautiful cars.
I can't remember the name of it. It was based off of the 4C platform, I think. But it's the one that has the really weird wheel wells up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh my god, I want that car.
Wish I could remember
Because
the
there's
name
the
now.
4C and the 8C.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
4C is a mid-engine roadster, and the 8C is a front-engine car. I can't remember the other one. Alfa Romeo is making some beautiful cars now, though.
Oh, they're so gorgeous.
Real
man.
pretty. That 4-door Quattro Giuliani. I can't even pronounce it, but it's a beautiful car. It's basically the same engine out of a Ferrari California with 2 cylinders gone.
Yeah.
It's a V6, right, Ed? A twin turbocharged V6. Oh,
As far what in the world is going on?
Don't
There he
mind
is.
us,
Oh, he's
folks. A
back.
little bit of technical. Wee-hee.
Okay.
technical difficulty.
Yes,
Not a
as
big
far
deal.
as I know, the last one I seen was a V6.
Yeah, I think it is.
Now that was a couple of models ago, but well, at least one model ago, but still.
Yeah.
But that one, oh man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to look it up and for next time or something. But that car is so. Oh,
It's nice, eh?
my, it's so pretty, man.
Yeah.
What's
So
Alfa
pretty.
Romeo's like for reliability though now?
Not good.
Okay, so they're still a typical Italian car.
It's an Italian car, man.
Yeah.
It got to go
yeah.
fast. It's got to look good. It doesn't matter if it starts
It's got
every
to
time.
it's got to be pretty.
Yeah.
It's got to go fast, and it's got to look fast, and then everything. It can break down every second day.
Yeah. oh, yeah, no
Italians
matter.
don't give a fuck.
No, because it looks fast
They don't
even
care.
going still. That's all they care about.
Yeah. As long as it looks fast sitting in the driveway, the Italians could care less. It's crazy. And complete opposite of how Germans operate.
Yes. Yes.
know what I mean?
Whereas
Yeah,
they
it's
want it to work every time.
Yeah. What is it that the guy on the Italian guy that they had on the Grand Tour that designed the Lancia, like kind of brought it back? He said if it worked right, it'd be an Audi.
Yeah.
Like if it worked all the time, it'd be an Audi.
Yeah. If it was reliable.
It's like, what are you talking about?
But I mean, like, I just every time I talk to anybody who knows anything about an Alfa Romeo who's actually seen one, you can just see their face right away. They're just like, like they're
beautiful.
thinking back to such a beautiful memory, right? It's
Yeah,
like
it's a
just
beautiful car.
But they're so.
You have to have a second car because it's probably not going
Oh
to
yeah,
start.
you
every
can only
other day.
drive that once a week. That's
Yeah,
just
it's
your
not-
Sunday drive. That's it.
It's not going to start until you know what I mean.
Think about
Don't even
those.
shut it off while you're getting gas.
But I mean,
Just
think
leave
about
it
those real nice looking Italian cars anyway. Would you really want to be able to drive them every day? Like, the more often you drive them, the more
No.
likely something's going to happen to one of them.
That's a good
And
point.
the more likely it's not gonna be just as spiritual of an experience as it would have been.
It takes the novelty wears off
Yeah.
a lot faster. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I tell you,
Well, I
it's those the Aston Martins now are
Also so pretty.
Have you seen some of those like the DB9s and DBS
They're so wild.
Man, when hasn't Aston Martin's been a beautiful car? Like,
for
Yeah.
a touring car?
Oh yeah.
well, that's the thing about
Probably-
Aston Martins, right? They're not
Yeah.
your typical like high performance car you get from Europe. It's a completely different animal. It is probably one of
Yeah.
the most finest grand touring machines you can get. I mean,
It's quality, right? Like,
it's
you
very
get the
good quality,
quilted
yeah.
leather and the you know what I mean.
it's meant to go
It's
fast
so nice.
and get there,
Yeah.
you know, really fast and stylish, but at the same time have a higher level of comfort while doing it. Right?
Right. For
I
sure.
want an old school V8 Vantage.
Oh yeah, they
They're
were nice.
beautiful,
They
man.
were nice.
That's the one I want. Oh man.
I want the James Bond Was it DB9? Old DB9?
I thought it was DB7.
Well, he's had a
DB7. No, you're right.
No,
DB7. Yeah,
you're talking about the DB5.
we are talking.
We're talking about
DB5.
the old school silver one.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
From like Goldfinger.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful car too.
Yeah, but he also did drive a Vanquish, and he did drive a DB9. And
Yeah, depending on the year. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
depending
always
on
an
which
Aston
movie.
Martin though.
Usually, yeah. It wasn't always, but
Oh, no?
definitely.
No, there was there was
he
that
drove a
submarine
Lotus a couple times, and
You remember that submarine
I
Lotus?
think he drove.
No, I don't
Oh,
know
absolutely, that white baby,
that. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Lotus Esprit,
Yeah,
man.
that was a nice looking car.
Notoriously the world's most unreliable car. Lotus was like a piece together. Like they used transmissions from Peugeots and stuff in some of their cars. Like they didn't even make their own transmissions specifically for the car. Like they literally
I'll
parted
take a
it
Peugeot 206 that's rallied out.
Oh yeah.
out. Yeah, they're nice, man.
Yeah.
Those 206 rally cars, they're fucking. You want a hot hatch, man? Whew, that will set you on fire.
Man, a Peugeot 206,
Yeah,
that's
man.
the definition of a hot hatch.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
pretty much.
Those the Ford like
Fiesta?
STs and stuff like that, they're beautiful too. The Focus ST.
Yeah, they've come a long way. They keep getting better and better.
Yeah, they've
That
got like
Focus RS, which they
that
don't make
that
anymore.
clever differential in the front.
Yeah.
That allows them to have so much power and still handle it and be a front wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking when you put 300 horsepower in a front wheel drive car, you're asking a
of torque
lot
steer.
of the front drivetrain because it has to
suspension.
steer and it has to be the power and that's a lot to ask of the front wheels.
Well, that's why normally anything more than 200 horsepower in a front wheel drive car is just a waste because you're going to get so much unbelievable torque steer. It makes it almost undrivable if you want to put your foot into it. You're going to get pulled off into a ditch. That's where those
And
smart differentials
the
and everything come in.
understeer is terrible when you put all that power.
Yeah.
Just the cornering, it just kind of plows on straight. Like you never get, But they're working on like the clever differentials and stuff like that distribute the power so well.
Yeah.
Apparently, it
Well,
works fantastic.
Volkswagen Golf GTI is a prime example for that.
That's true. Yeah.
Everybody says that's the most sorted out front wheel drive car you will drive.
Well, it is German.
Yeah.
It is German. That's true.
Gotta give them that.
It is German.
That's like I remember this story. I can't remember what company it is. It was one of the Mercedes tuner companies that were out in Germany, and they got a hold of a couple of pre-production Mercedes cars, and they ended up just going apeshit on the engine and just went overkill. Basically, took one of the mid-sized sedans and put one of the massive V12s out of the bigger sedans in it, and then also turbocharged it, tuned it, did it right up, and it was more or less as a joke because as much as they wanted it, they knew what Mercedes was like, and they're all about but it's got to be refined, it's got to be this, they knew,
Right.
But they decided to bring it back to the factory and take some of the executives around in it, and I can't remember what car that turned into, but it ended up basically becoming one of the AMG Mercedes. It was slightly modified, tuned back a little. It was a bit too extreme.
I know what one you're talking about. It was very similar to the one that that was in Roadhouse. Remember?
Similar, yeah.
But the body style right beforehand, which was much more squared off and edgy.
Did you see
That thing was a fucking
Actually,
monster.
I think it's the story of how AMG got into working with Mercedes, because AMG used to be a separate company. And now it's basically
I'll reference my boys over at Donut Media for that one.
Yeah, it's good. They're a good channel.
I was reading an article yesterday or the day before that Elon has taken the Tesla Roadster, the one that's coming up, the super fast one, and he's going to have a SpaceX package. Basically, what happens is, from what I understand, from what I read, is the little small seats that would normally be in the back, kind of like, like the Porsches all have, some of them have like
Little
the
jump
small
seats,
seats.
yep.
Yeah. So they would be removed and there would be a air tank put in the back that allows you to hover for a short amount of time about a meter off the ground. the SpaceX
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Basically, it would be
so dangerous.
It would be a high pressure cushion of air
that would last for a fraction of a second.
For a short time. He said that. He said for a short time you'd be able to hover.
Well, I mean, if you're removing rear seats with pressurized tanks, unless you're putting a ridiculously overpressure situation in them, you're going to hover for like a fraction of a second. It's like, and it's done.
If anybody else made that claim,
well, I know enough about physics to know that the tanks would have to be much larger, or it's not going to work.
But he's a mad scientist.
Yeah, but his idea is probably just going to be like, it gives you a massive boost, and you just come up off the ground and then come back down, and that's probably good enough. Because that would be cool. It's like a little mini jump.
Elon, he'll find some kind of solid state fuel.
He said it. Yeah, he said a short amount of time. He never specified, obviously, but it's just funny how like he's taken technology from SpaceX and putting it into cars now. You know what I mean? Like, he's like,
well, that's crazy. What he's been doing from the start, though, using one project to fund the other project. And
for sure, yeah. I guess it's kind of
they're all intertwined.
Yep. The Boring Company and SpaceX, Tesla.
Not very exciting, is it?
No. That's the flamethrower he made was made by the Boring Company. They told him he wasn't allowed to make a flamethrower. So
that's terrible.
Right?
Well, yeah, they are kind of illegal.
Yeah.
It's like the Geneva Accords or whatever it was.
But yet he still made it.
They're like, they're inhumane. But they're effective.
And people can buy them.
Yep. You can buy them. Well, not anymore. They only made 400 and some odd.
But point is, he did make them, and he did
sell them. Yeah. I think he just does stuff when he wakes up in the morning. He's like, you know what I want to do? I'm going to make a flamethrower today.
I think it's...
He's going to have some competition up in space there pretty shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos pretty handy.
Who?
Boeing. Boeing's got the Boeing
got their own
Starliner.
Yep. And Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he has his own space program now.
Yeah, he's had it for years.
You know the United Arab Emirates has a space program?
Yeah, of course.
Jeff Bezos,
like one of the richest fucking.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean
Jeff Bezos has had a space program as long as SpaceX has been around.
A few years later,
almost as long. It's basically been a while now. What is it?
Yeah.
Blue.
Yeah, he's had
Horizon or Blue something.
I can't remember.
But he just hasn't quite.
But like United Arab Emirates, they're gonna have a rover at Mars in a week.
Yeah.
China, they've been in orbit over Mars for the last 2 weeks. Mars is getting full,
because there's several missions. That's the next thing now is having men on Mars. Or people, I should say.
Yeah.
On Mars.
It's a 7-month trip.
Yeah. 6 months at its shortest time.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is one Earth year orbiting the sun is about a year and a half for Mars.
Yeah, well, they're further out.
Right? So basically what happens is like Mars moves like this and we move a bit, or Mars moves slower and we move faster. And then there's a point every year where we kind of end up like here.
Mm-hmm.
So the window is you launch the shuttle, or well, not the shuttle, but the rocket, just where Mars is going to be in 6 months.
Exactly. I was about to say.
So we don't actually go to Mars, we intercept Mars's orbit.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes. And with our technology, that's the only way to do it, because we have to leave before Mars is at its closest to arrive there when it is at its closest.
So basically, like,
to cut down
from the sun, like, let's, for argument's sake, because I'm not sure the exact math, but like, if we're say 1 light year from the sun, Mars is 1.8. We're 8.
We're 8 light minutes.
Okay, well, yeah, so
it takes about 8 minutes for light to reach us from the sun.
Right. So, but just for easy math, like let's say we're 1 light year from the sun, Mars would be 1.5, basically. Yeah.
Do you know what I always found absolutely amazing is we look up in our night sky and we see the moon, And we're like, oh yeah, and we know the moon isn't that big compared to Earth.
No.
So we're like thinking that's probably not that far away. And then we look at planets like Jupiter and Saturn and see how huge they are compared to Earth. Yeah. We can fit every single planet in our solar system
in Jupiter
between Earth and Moon.
Yeah.
The Earth and the Moon. Even the gas giants. There's just enough room between the Earth and the Moon that you could fit every other planet in between.
Isn't that crazy?
Imagine the magnetic forces you'd have with that. Gravity, crazy, you say?
So talk about a big bang when everything collides.
Speaking of the sun, they got they came out with basically a replacement for the Hubble.
Oh, really?
Space telescope.
Yes, they have a new space telescope. It's going to be in October. They're launching, or they were supposed to launch last year, but it got delayed. So I think it's in October now.
What do they have up there now? There's the Hubble and the Kepler telescope. That's the most advanced one we have in orbit right now, right? Is the Kepler telescope?
Yeah, this new one that's coming out is supposed to be like
insane.
Yeah, and
it seems a lot. It'll be.
Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, I was just going to say they're hoping it'll be advanced enough that they'll literally be able to view some of the first galaxies that ever formed.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, and I'm thinking this too, like, because if they're gonna orbit around the sun, that's actually a whole lot smarter. Because it's the center of our solar system. So you're going to get the most realistic picture all around if you're taking it from the middle.
Space is a fucked up place, man.
It's ridiculous.
It's like, if you actually like think about it and look up or research the things that actually go on, it's crazier than actual science fiction.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's more bananas than the movies like the theories in the movies that we grew up with.
Yes.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like rogue planets and shit
just
made of diamonds,
catastrophes everywhere.
Stuff blowing up that produces energy that you can't even imagine as a human. Like your brain can't fathom it. Like,
because we're on this tiny little speck that's floating in space, because basically the size of Earth is insignificant compared to everything else in space.
Yeah.
I mean, even the speed of light here on Earth, the speed of light we can't even get our ape brains around that. It goes so fast. It's basically instantaneous to us here on Earth.
Basically, yeah.
But yet, if you left Earth and traveled at the speed of light, it would still take, like, 40 or 50 years to get to the nearest star.
Yeah.
And that's the nearest star.
And
it would take literally billions of years to get anywhere sensibly far from
even
Earth.
When you think of gravity, like, we always remember when you were in high school or coming through elementary school as well, they always told you that gravity was a pull, but gravity's more of a push. Like, the way space-time works, the larger the object, the more it distorts space-time.
Yes, it warps space-time.
Yeah, so like the sun actually bends space-time around it. So gravity's it's kind of a push and a pull, I guess, in a way, right? Like, for us it's kind of a pull, because if you jump, it pulls you back down. But on the grander scale, like with planets and black holes, it's a push.
Yeah, it's
hard to fathom.
It's hard to fathom. The easiest way to look at it is almost like waves on an ocean.
Yeah,
they can push you and they can pull you in, because as a wave opens up and goes low underneath you, you'll actually get sucked into it. And just like if there was a large wave behind you, it could push you.
Yeah, it would be like dropping.
We also, in the last few years, we actually discovered another thing that Albert Einstein had theorized, and that was gravitational waves. We've discovered that they do actually exist.
At the what's that facility called down in?
The one that looks for gravitational waves.
Yeah, it's in the States. I wanted to say Arizona, but I think it might be Louisiana somewhere.
I can't even remember the name of it now.
But I know what you.
They're basically used as a gigantically long laser beam.
Yeah, and they had
freaking lasers
when a quasar exploded,
freaking heads.
Two black holes collided. Like, however many millions of years ago, and the gravitational waves finally hit Earth, and it picked it up.
Yeah,
which was like a giant scientific breakthrough, because they were only a theory. Gravitational waves were a theory, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's real today.
Well, we had to figure out the biggest thing was the reason they've been a theory for so long is we had to figure out how in the world would we measure them.
Yeah.
And somebody realized, like, where gravitational waves is a warpage of space-time.
Yeah.
If you had a laser that was long enough, because here on Earth everything is like insignificant and small compared to space, you need a really long laser. So they, basically built a straight laser that goes a couple of kilometers, and then through mirrors, basically they shoot a laser beam down to the other end, down to one end, and then it comes back and it gets deflected and split into two separate laser beams when there's two emitters that are the exact same, or not emitters, but basically like cameras that detect the laser beam when it comes and hits it at slightly two different points, and they're the exact same distance from the starting point. And depending on which way and angle the gravitational wave comes in, it'll actually distort those lasers in a slightly different way that's detectable. So you'll look at these two lasers and they should hit at the exact same time, and all of a sudden you'll see that they're slightly off from one another. And the only thing that can cause that is literally a warpage in space-time, gravitational waves.
It's crazy, man.
Yep.
Like, I think one of the best documentaries I've seen is the series How the Universe Works, and they explain everything as they learn. Like, I think there's like 9 seasons of it now, and as they learn more and more and they release more seasons, like, they kind of explain more things, and then they come up with things where they're like, well, we thought this, but we were way off.
Oh yeah, that happens.
It's not how this works.
A lot
at
of
all.
it is just educated guesswork.
It's the problem with science and why people disbelieve it so much is because they're wrong a lot.
Yeah.
But
well, that's why they're called scientific theories. Until they can be proven,
a scientific theory can never be proven. It can only be disproven.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's, which is kind of a weird. It's hard for people to wrap their head around that as well. Do you know what I mean?
It is, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, if somebody just wants to follow somebody who's been right a lot, look at Albert Einstein's theories back in the 1920s and 30s. When he did,
he's been right a lot.
Like relativity, like figuring out that the closer you went, the faster you went, the more time slowed down for you.
Yeah.
We've been able to test that in more recent years.
There's actually, if you had a twin brother and you were born, you were both born at sea level, and then one of you was brought up to the highest point on Earth, and you lived your life there, and your brother lived his life at sea level.
Yeah.
You would age differently by minute fractions in time.
Not enough for notice, but yes.
Not enough to notice, but technically time would be faster for you on the mountain.
Well, that's how they basically tested it.
Or sorry, no, it would be faster for you on the Earth because you're closer.
Yes.
It's spinning.
Because when you're up on that mountain, you're technically spinning at a faster rate.
Slower rate, right?
Faster.
Because you're higher up. It takes you time longer. Faster.
The further away you are from the Earth's core, the faster you're going.
Right, you're right.
But that's basically how they tested the theory way back. I can't remember if it was the 80s or early 90s.
Use a clock.
They took 2 atomic clocks, left one here on Earth, put the other one up in orbit. And of course, at orbit is about 30,000 kilometers an hour, something crazy number like that. So obviously that's a bit fast. And it's going around the Earth. The one here on Earth, in comparison, is basically not moving at all, even though it is, the Earth is spinning. But, in comparison to the one here, there was a massive speed difference. And they left it up there for a while and brought it back down. And it was only a difference of, I can't remember the exact difference, but it was maybe only a few milliseconds. But the fact that there was a difference and the one that was sent up slowed down slightly proved the theory.
Yeah, it was fractions of a second, but it wasn't.
Yeah, fractions of a second, but it still slowed down. And if you took those same 2 atomic clocks and left them side by side, or even moved them around on the Earth and never brought them into orbit, they'd always stay perfectly synced. That's the point of atomic clocks. So the fact that they were able to speed it up to this ridiculous speed and get a difference in time just backed up Albert.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It's crazy that he came up with these theories out of his noodle back in the 1920s and 30s. It's a bit mind-boggling.
Makes you wonder about the DeLorean, right?
What?
Yeah.
Could you get going fast enough?
88.
88 not going to do it for you.
You got to get it to 88 and go back in time.
That's the thing. We already know that traveling into the future is quite easily possible if you go fast enough. It's just figuring out a way to go back in time.
Yeah.
how do you go fast enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, even just conventional rocket if you had enough time.
They, I think Elon Musk might be like the Albert Einstein of our time. Like our, you know what I mean?
It's kind of looking that way so far, yeah.
He's some of his.
I don't know. I
ideas are
can't.
fucking-
I find that hard to agree.
He
with.
likes to challenge.
I find that very hard to
things.
agree with.
Really?
He is nowhere near as smart as Albert Einstein. He is more of
I don't know about that, man.
Business.
yeah.
Man.
He's
Business
really
genius.
he's more of a people
pretty
person.
fucking
He's really
smart.
good at coming up with an
He's
idea.
like, what's his
But he
face?
gets
Is
other
it
people to basically create
Edison
it.
or Jefferson?
He was saying
Edison.
he was like, you know, you could kind of start an atmosphere on Mars by melting the water at the poles. Basically, all you'd have to do is create a sun at the poles. And so, well, how the fuck would you
Hydrogen
do
bomb.
that? It's like, well, if you detonate a thermonuclear
yeah.
warhead every 10 seconds, it would heat that water up and then melt it, and then eventually you would get a thin atmosphere. But you would be detonating a thermonuclear explosion
Every 10 seconds.
every 10 seconds over the poles of this planet, which to think about is kind of bananas, but
It's essentially terraforming.
It is a type of terraforming.
it's a crude way of
and
terraforming
there's
for sure.
easier ways too. Like,
Oh, I'm sure, but it's just funny that like that's where his brain goes. He's like, oh, we'll just detonate some thermonuclear
nuke
warheads.
Bombs.
Yeah,
I understand why his brain went
it.
that way though. Because think about it. What is the closest thing we can make that's like a miniature sun? A hydrogen bomb.
a thermonuclear reaction, because that's what the sun is.
Well,
Basically.
hydrogen bomb, yeah.
It's kind of hydrogen.
Because a regular atomic bomb uses fission, whereas a hydrogen bomb uses fusion.
Yeah, and we don't do fusion yet. The sun
Yes.
does fusion.
The DeLorean does fusion.
Yes, they have Mr.
Yeah, but
Fusion
you need a
written right
flux
on it.
capacitor, brother.
That's right.
You gotta get a flux capacitor.
You know, there's a Canadian company that's very close to making a really decent functioning fusion reactor too. Yeah,
Really? That's pretty cool.
there's several
It's,
companies in
it's
several countries working on it. There a lot of them are getting close. But the last I was reading, there's this Canadian company. I read some of the research, and they seem to be really on track. That I could see them having a breakthrough probably in the next 15, 20 years, which wouldn't take that long.
That's nuts. It's
So, you know they're planning on crashing a spaceship into an asteroid?
oh yeah, as a deflection deterrent.
Yeah, they're trying to see
They've-
if it would be
they've
enough to
got
work.
They've got a ton of ideas depending on what the asteroid is made of, size,
Yeah.
shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, because like an asteroid made of rock is a lot easier to deflect or destroy than an asteroid made of metal.
Not only that,
An asteroid made of metal causes
the
a giant
biggest problem with
for
most
us.
asteroids, especially that coming from our asteroid belt, they're made of loose debris. It looks like a solid chunk, but it's actually basically small rocks and
But
dust.
it's just kind of pulled together by small gravity.
It's
yeah.
held together by its own gravity of just basically small particles of dust and rock and crap, right?
But you don't really need, from what I understand of asteroids, which is not much, the loose rubble asteroids, once they hit our atmosphere, where they're basically small rocks, they burn up
Most of
before
it
they ever
burns
hit the
up.
ground.
Depending
you know
on
what
its
I mean?
size.
And the same with this. Yeah. But the smaller solid rocky asteroids also kind of do the same by the time they start entering our atmosphere. The big problem is a metal asteroid because
it just
that
turns into
won't
a
burn up.
flaming ball of magma.
Like that's like do you see the report on that Oumuamua object
Oumuamua?
that passed the sun?
No?
So I think it was in 2000. They just released an article on it, but it was in 2018, Ed, I think it was, that they were tracking an object that looked like a cigar.
Yes.
That came into our
remember
solar
that now.
system out of interstellar space, into our solar system, shot past all the planets, came by the sun's gravitational pull, gave it a tug, and shot it out on the other side, and it picked up a small amount of speed. And some astrophysicists think that it was an alien probe or kind of like we do. Like we shoot fucking shit into space all the time.
Yeah.
And others just think it was maybe a metal asteroid because it had a reflective surface. As it
Not
when they watched
optically
past the sun, it
reflective,
had
but
like
radio
a
reflective,
reflective
yes.
surface.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
we use radio
so-
telescopes for
which was
far
kinda
distant
weird
objects,
because-
not optical telescopes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the strange thing was usually when a comet comes in or an asteroid comes in close enough to the sun, it heats up, and any ice that's on that comet starts to melt, and it usually leaves a trail, like a tail behind it.
Yeah.
But this didn't, which kind of makes it a bit weird because it sped up when it passed the sun, but when it doesn't have a little tail to give it that push, it seems like a propulsion system.
However, gravity
some
slingshot
sort?
would make sense too.
Bro.
The biggest thing is that's what kind of proved that it was interstellar.
But what they're saying is they accounted for the slingshot, and they calculated what the speed should have been when it broke the sun's gravitational pull, and it was faster than it should have been. It shouldn't have
the
picked
problem
up
with
that
those
much speed.
calculations is they don't know the exact mass because they don't know the exact composition. They know it's probably metallic because it's radio reflective, but they don't know what kind of metal or the density of that metal. And because it's and they're pretty confident that it's an interstellar asteroid, which means not from our solar system.
Interstellar.
So it's basically guesswork at that point.
Which is super weird. Yeah. But
absolutely.
still kind of crazy when you think about it. Like interstellar, it's the first interstellar object we've ever seen.
I don't know if either one of you seen what
And it's
movie
shaped
was
like a
what
dick.
Star Trek movie was it when that probe came and was talking to the whales? It was basically just a big giant cigar shaped probe. Yeah, it was just a big cylinder that came in through, right? Maybe this was their first flyby.
Do you think
The
there's
white
been
ball came out and dangled underneath it.
I don't think there's been aliens anywhere near or life from any other solar system into ours.
Well, we're so far away.
I don't disbelieve that there's life on other planets, but I disbelieve the fact that
I
it's
don't know
ever
about
been
that.
here.
I think that
Well, we're like the Ramia.
well, the thing is, I think of interstellar travel as so beyond us right now that even if a species was capable of interstellar travel, they probably, even if they passed by here, they probably looked for intelligent life, but never found any. We'd be so far
But that's what I
beneath
think too.
them.
Like if
We're still
if
animals.
you were capable of, and you explain it like this: like how often do you think of a monkey?
Yeah.
Almost never.
Just when I see one
So
on
for
TV.
for them, we would be
We
like
basically,
hairless
if you
apes.
look at the similarities between
pretty
us
much. They'd be like,
and
"What the fuck are-
chimpanzees and
what are these
gorillas and other
things?"
great apes, genetically even, we're only a few percentage points
Yeah.
in difference. So you look at
Do you see
but
that-
you look
do
at
you
an
see that
intelligent
they're-
life
they've-
that's a couple more percentages more than us. Look at the difference you got. Compare if you look, what?
They've recorded monkeys actually entering the Stone Age, like they're actually making tools with stone.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Like
Yeah, but you know what comes next?
Planet of the Apes.
Well, they're not going to advance anymore. They're
Bronze
starting
Age,
to develop
man.
larger
I feel
brains.
like we're okay.
If that starts happening,
Yeah, but it's just it's impressive that we're living in a time where we see them actually develop to the point where they're
Evolving,
like they're
however,
evolving
at
to
the
make
same time,
tools.
they might have been doing that for thousands of years, and we didn't
That's
even know
fucked
because
up.
where they've been using these rock tools and everything are in locations where there's certain food supplies where they have to use rocks to get at it. And it's deep enough in the jungle that as we explore more and more,
Yeah,
we
like
find
coconuts
more
and
and more
stuff.
things about nature we didn't know about before. So these particular monkeys that
Oh, for
Well,
sure.
even with civilization, same thing with civilization. They're going through the Amazon so much more now, and they are discovering that the Amazon was just loaded with civilization and people.
Well, I mean, if you-
Unbelievable cities and technology.
Well, that's
and
the
stuff.
point. If you
Even
look
in the
back at what
Americas,
we knew back in when we were kids in school, and we heard about the Aztecs and the Mayans, and basically all we knew is like all of a sudden there was these massive cities and all the civilization, and then it just disappeared. So it came from nowhere, it went to nowhere. Obviously, we didn't know enough about the area, right? So obviously, the more they explore,
But even the Americas, though, like they're saying that in the Americas, I seen one guy on a podcast and they were saying like it's something like the normal school of thought was like 12,000 years or something like that for people in the Americas. But they've been discovering stuff now that they've been going into different regions, now that we can access them a little better. And they're discovering all kinds of signs of civilizations dating back like 50,000, 60,000 years.
It's crazy, man.
In the Americas, it's like, man, there's so much that we just don't know because nature is taking it back from us.
Yeah.
It's either buried or whatever.
It's kind of crazy how, like, the ego and the fact that we think we know so much when we probably know.
That's the thing. What you want to do,
you know what I mean? Like,
is you watch one of these documentaries about, like, if people just vanished off the face of the earth one day, and then you jump forward 100,000 years and look what we actually leave behind. Given enough time, we would be erased from the surface. Yeah. Even with paleontologists coming and trying to dig up where our old cities were,
for sure,
there'd almost be nothing left. If you look at it that way, there's no way to know for sure if we didn't already have technology like we have right now. Like, there's certain chemical compounds that we don't find in the ground to kind of rule out certain things, but we still could have been a hell of a lot more advanced than we realized.
Well, like,
we lost it all at one point.
Yeah. I think we could have been more advanced than we thought, but I don't think we were ever more advanced than we are right now.
No, that's why I just said
because
chemical
I say
that would be in the soil.
I say that because until they find a piece of titanium somewhere, then we know, like, you know what I mean? Like, titanium is a synthetic
it's not even titanium.
No, but I'm using that as an example.
Chemicals that
I'm using that as an example, right? Like, if you went into a Mayan ruin and you found titanium, then you go, okay, well, now they had advanced metallurgy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But
even like history-wise, like if everything got wiped off the face of the earth, I mean, just through normal time and degradation of everything. There was no fossils of any humans, and some alien species came down. The only way that they would have any idea there might have been an advanced civilization at one point is there'd still be trace elements and chemicals in the ground that they would have realized, like, okay, at some point there was actually plastics and other advanced chemical compositions that biodegraded in this area.
But see, and we're looking at,
has to be artificially made.
But we're looking at it as they couldn't be as advanced as we are now because of specific technologies that we have. But we're looking at it based on the technologies that we have. Think about
That's a good point. They could have had different technologies.
A completely different type of power source. They could have had a way of harnessing something in nature. Who knows?
Yes and no, because you'd need certain technologies that we have to get there. You know what I mean? Like we have nuclear reactors, and so if they had a technology more advanced than that, then they would have had to basically find it through nuclear reactors first.
But you could also think 30,000 years ago, maybe there was a different type of crack in the earth that was releasing whatever natural gas, whatever. Who knows?
Right, but what I'm saying is, like, they've never found any of the man-made compounds that we have today. Like, they would have had to have one of them, whether it be stainless steel, titanium, plutonium, some sort of. Well, I guess plutonium's not man-made, but it's it's refined.
No, but any plutonium is man-made. Plutonium is man-made. Uranium is natural. Plutonium is man-made. It's made in a reactor. Yeah. But you're not going to find plutonium even if they had nuclear reactors, because nuclear isotopes break down too quickly.
They do degrade.
So they would have probably broke back down into a form of uranium or some other radioactive isotope.
But there would be radiation left over.
Yes, from radioactive isotopes, which we have in the ground right now.
Like Chernobyl.
So you wouldn't be able to distinguish it from natural stuff.
But what I honestly believe that, like, the whole Atlantis kind of thing, I totally believe that could be true. That there is some ancient civilization that found a way to harness a certain kind of power, whether it's within the earth,
like a Dyson sphere,
whatever.
I look at it this way: say there was this ancient people that had this city. They started to get a little bit advanced, maybe to the point of where Romans were at their peak, and they just accidentally stumbled upon something that we haven't discovered yet. And gave them a boost in such a way that they still kind of lived more like ancient people, but yet had the ability to make
vibranium.
Crazy technology.
Wakanda's a real place.
But think of it on the same kind of wavelength as the whole Wakanda thing, right?
Can you imagine?
They have this one thing that nobody else even really knows about, but because of its properties and what it can do, it enables them to do all these other crazy shit.
I wonder how many weird elements are on other planets.
Well, by rights, I mean, whatever's on this planet should be on the next one.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Ish. There's only so many.
The entire universe is basically made up of all the same stuff.
It's just going to be different concentrations, right?
We've made new elements.
Yeah.
I know.
And the problem is we know what elements are stable and what elements aren't. The reason that we are, like, if you look out into space and you look at the majority of what's out there, it's basically the same majority of what's in us, like hydrogen, carbon, all those basic elements that make us up. The universe is absolutely full of. It's like there's not that many surprises out there because we can literally just look at the periodic table of the elements and realize, okay, you got hydrogen is made of one of everything, and helium is two of everything, and so on and so forth. And as we go through just adding more and more individual protons and electrons to make a new atom, we come across that once they get a certain size, they become unstable.
But that's until you think of something like a neutron star. Like a neutron star has neutrons. But the core of a neutron star is made of some sort of superfluid that we can't even comprehend. Like it's
hard for us to comprehend its density, but we know exactly what it's made of. Neutrons.
It's a dense superfluid that moves, but like it's so bananas, man. Like it's hard to wrap my head around. Hey, if we would have talked about this last week, it would have been fresh in my mind. I could have explained it a bit better. But I watched like 18 episodes in a row, so I've got like 40 different things going on upstairs right now. So I can't really deep dive into it. But
the thing about a superfluid, because they've theorized about superfluids even other than what's inside of neutron stars, and it's the fact that superfluids are so what makes them a superfluid is literally
it's hard to explain.
It is hard to explain, but just say this ceramic cup here, you wouldn't be able to put it in it because it would literally the fluid would be able to fit between the gaps in the individual atoms,
right,
and be able to pour. It would just pour right out the bottom.
It'd also be too heavy.
Well, yes,
the density is insane.
Well, no, you're talking about the superfluid inside of a neutron star, but I'm also talking about other types of superfluids that they've theorized about. Not all of them necessarily are that dense and heavy.
Yeah, but it's pretty crazy. The stuff that's in space is nuts, man.
But if you think about a neutron star, you can understand why it's so dense, because that's the whole point. This here, it's mostly empty space still. To us, it looks solid, but if we were able to shrink ourselves down and actually look at individual atoms, there's massive gaps between every single atom and every single molecule in that cup. Yeah. But if all of a sudden you strip everything away and you're only left with the individual neutrons inside of an atom, and they're allowed to touch and just clump together, think about how unimaginably dense that material could be.
It's weird because you're basically all made of stardust.
Yes, exactly.
When you really break it down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're
basically made of an exploded star.
Yes. Well, you're made from the. You're made
all
from
of our viewers now are like, "What the fuck is going on right now?" What
you're basically made from what
I'm not
is
even
made
high
inside
yet.
of stars.
This is such a tangent.
Where are we to?
When the star explodes, it puts the material out there. But what makes the material is the fusion process inside the star. Like, for example, our star starts off at the most basic fusion level, which would have started at the beginning of the galaxy, which was mostly just hydrogen gas. Why was it hydrogen? Because it's the most simple element. It's just one of everything. Yeah. Once that stuff clumped up, formed stars, what happens when you fuse two hydrogen atoms? You get two of everything. So now you have a helium. Yeah. And if you have a helium star that's big enough, you're going to fuse and then have three of everything, and then so on and so forth. There's literally stars out there that
once our
make
star
diamonds.
starts burning helium, we're fucked.
What?
I said once our star runs out of hydrogen and starts burning helium, we're fucked.
Well, yes, because of our star's size. So our star is actually
going to turn
small.
to iron. Yeah, but then the core turns to iron, gravity pulls it in, it explodes, goes supernova, and either turns into a black hole or just blows up.
Well, in our case, our star is so small.
An infinite number.
Too small, yeah.
Our star is so small, they're pretty convinced that once it turns into mostly helium, it's just going to turn into a red giant and slowly cool and not. They're very doubtful that it's going to ever blow up. It's too small. It doesn't have enough mass.
We'll be dead anyway.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. It's going to turn into a big enough red giant that we will be inside of its chromosphere. So we'd be inside the star. And even though a red giant isn't as hot as our star, it's still a star. It's still plasma. Like
still a star.
We're still vaporized.
It's kind of when you think about like how it's basically a ball of fire. I know it's not a ball of fire, but there's no oxygen in space.
Yeah, I look at it as a high energy plasma.
But yeah, it's because it's a nuclear reaction. But
yeah,
it's just it's that's another thing that makes it hard for people to wrap their head around. They go, like, if you don't educate yourself enough on it, you go, well, it's a burning ball of fire, but there's no air in space, and you need oxygen to burn. So if you don't know it's a nuclear reaction, then it's real hard to just to understand the star itself.
Yeah, because there's nothing burning inside of a star.
What is going on?
It's literally just two atoms fusing together, and then it
from immense pressure.
Yeah, and what that fusion process does is relieve every single bit of radiation you can possibly create.
What they need to do is they just need to find a way to make an exobody and be able to download your consciousness to that exobody. And then you can get into a spaceship and travel the universe, because you eliminate the need for fuel or food.
Time.
I mean, you eliminate the need for like human waste. You eliminate the need for
travel,
the aging process. Like all that stuff goes away, and you can literally just live forever.
Well, when you talk about human waste, though, that would depend on whose intellect you're putting in that body, because certain people you would consider human waste. Well, mentally wise, anyway, right?
But you know what I mean? Would you sign up for that, Ed?
Absolutely.
Like if they said when you're like, live your life here till you're like 65
that's the thing. I would absolutely have to live my life first anyway. I have kids. I have like too many responsibilities.
And then they said, here's the deal. Once you're 70, as long as you do it before your brain starts getting dementia, we can download you into a robot, put you in a space shuttle that looks like a dick, and shoot you into space. And you can travel space for the rest of your life.
I'd be like, where do I sign?
Just go to different planets. It's like the greatest vacation ever. I'll go with you guys.
So, what would you call a person who travels around in a space cock? You're not a space cowboy.
An astronaut?
No. That's terrible. Such a dad joke. What the fuck? That's basically what we do, though. We put people in big metal dicks and shoot them into space.
Ooh.
They're called rockets, Chris. They're called
Great
rockets.
big phallic ships.
I know what they're called. I'm aware of what they're called.
Dicks.
Yeah. Do you know it takes like a fraction of the energy to get to Mars as it does to get into orbit and stay in orbit?
Well, if you ever seen the Apollo mission, like
you got to get through.
If you ever
the
seen the Saturn V rocket, what actually orbited the Earth before it took off to go to the moon, it was only the very tip. It was almost 90% of that rocket was just to break the fines of break gravity here on Earth.
Because the problem is once you get into orbit, whatever energy you put in, you have to take out now, so that you can stay in orbit. Yeah. It takes so much less energy to just break the atmosphere. Once you're in space, there's nothing holding you back.
There's no friction.
No.
You're good to go.
Depending on how high you are.
There's nothing.
Believe it or not, once we're in space, there's still low orbit where there is enough air molecules even there that
residual
there is tiny amounts of drag.
And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying getting into orbit versus leaving Earth and going straight to Mars.
Yeah.
Once you break the Earth's gravitational pull, there's fuck all holding you back, really.
Yeah, and that's why space travel hasn't really changed since we started space travel. Is the fact we need gigantic.
We haven't been to the moon
just to get into orbit.
1969.
What was that?
We haven't been to the moon since the 60s.
I thought it was early 70s was the last moon mission.
Yeah, I was going to say it would have been early 70s.
The last time we put a man on the moon was 1969.
Yeah.
That was the first time we hit the moon.
That's the only time.
There was several Apollo missions, not just one. It was Apollo 11, Apollo 12,
the last time
Apollo
we were
13,
on the moon
Apollo
was in
14, Apollo 15, Apollo 6.
13 didn't
13
go to the
had a
moon.
problem, hence, Houston, we have a problem. But you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying there was several Apollo missions.
It's a good movie.
11 was the one that landed, but all the ones after that also landed on the moon except for 13. I thought it was like 70 or 71 was the last year we were on the moon. I thought it was 71. No, 72. Okay. Ha. No.
Apollo.
You know that Russians have been on Mars since like 71?
With probes and stuff, yeah. Yeah.
With probes, yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Big space race to the moon just completes in 69. And then just fucking 2 short years later, Russia's like, we sent stuff.
Well, that's the funny thing. That's what's crazy about just getting into orbit is so hard. Once you're in orbit, it's nothing to get to the moon or Mars or anywhere else, especially with a probe. If there's no people on it, it doesn't matter.
The last time a person visited the moon was December 1979 during NASA's Apollo 17 mission. Yeah, so we haven't been to the moon since the 70s.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
a long time.
Honestly, from growing up, I figured by now we would have had at least like some form of colony on the moon. Some kind of base, some kind of something.
There was no reason to. That's
the
only reason we haven't.
Yeah, I guess there's
aliens.
You have to look at the fact that NASA.
Don't you know there's Transformers on the dark side of the moon?
NASA is government funded.
Optimus Prime's been hanging out there for months.
And if you look at, we were on the moon through the 70s, and then by the time the 80s got here, the Cold War was, still really pretty crazy. But then by 89, 1990, there was no more Cold War. The Soviet Union fell apart. Once that happened, there was no need to one up the Russians anymore. And popular opinion was why are we spending so much money on NASA when through the 80s there was many financial crises down the U.S. So a lot of the governments cut a shitload of funding out of NASA and put it back into
all the medical advances that came from space travel technology was insane, man. Isn't that where we got EKGs and CAT scans from? Was from developing the United States space program, basically.
It might have been derived from possibly some scanning processes.
I could see
that's
it
what I mean.
From testing.
It was derived from space.
Well, like
research,
I said,
right?
I could see it being derived from
CAT
certain
scans,
ways
MRIs
that they do scans with probes and stuff.
It's the same thing when it comes to military funding. A lot of stuff comes from medical advances comes from military
technology,
funding.
period.
Vaccinations came from...
A lot of military technologies actually don't even end up getting used by the military. Yeah. And it then goes they just automatically trickle down into the civilian world.
Vaccinations of smallpox was a military thing.
Well, you look at human history in general. Every time there's a large human conflict, there's a massive leap in technology. Every time.
Technological
for sure.
Gains,
Yep. It's pretty crazy.
Manhattan Project was one.
That was one I think that some people thought might have been a bad idea.
I'm pretty sure there's some people over in the Pacific that didn't like it. It was a bit rough on them. A bit rough on them.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
A little bit.
It's brutal. Well, boys, we're at 1:03. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, we can, sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good bit of time.
Short and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of spacey talk today.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Was less of a funny episode, more of a boy. We really went down a rabbit hole on that one, didn't we?
That's all right, though. It just proves, you could literally hear anything on this show.
See, folks,
we're going to talk about it all.
We're not complete morons, but please don't fact check us on too much stuff.
Can you imagine if Neil deGrasse Tyson all of a sudden showed up? He'd be like, boys, you were right about some things, but...
I hope he doesn't watch this show. He'd be like, you 8 ass-scratching weirdos.
Meatheads,
yeah, basically. So. Okay, well, you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, all your favorite podcast platforms. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Absolutely. Come over onto Facebook. Just look up Brothers Media Inc., and you'll come onto our page, and you can see some trailers, any updates for everything. It's going to go right to there, as well as our Instagram page.
Yep.
Ed, we also got that Patreon site happening.
Yes. Patreon.com/brothersmedia.
Yep. And you can hear new audio versions of the episodes every Tuesday and video versions on YouTube every Wednesday.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, folks. We hope you all have a great week. Stay safe. We love you.
Take care. Good night.
Night.